and welcome to Quarter Time Podcast. I'm Lucy G.
And I'm Lucy P.
And we're here to bring you all the netball goodness you never knew you needed. Hi everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in to episode 16 of Quarter Time Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed all the extra bonus episodes that we've been putting out recently, including the Roses coaching and the squad announcements, as well as our latest episode called Building a Franchise of Leeds Rhinos. We've also been really busy commentating at some NPL games, the Pulse versus Stars one, which has been great fun. So Lucy P, what have we got coming up on today's show?
Well, so we had another bye weekend for the Vitality Netball Super League last week. And so we've once again turned our attention down under. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. This time we're taking a look at the Suncorp Super Netball competition. We'll be talking in depth about the Magpies versus Firebirds clash and analysing all the major talking points from this game, along with an overall look at how things are stacking up on the SSN ladder. Finally, we've got an interview on the topic of captaincy with the wonderful England Roses and Manchester Thunder mid-quarter. It's Laura Malcolm.
Love. Amazing. So let's dive straight into our analysis of Firebirds versus Magpies. What do you make of this one, Luce?
Oh, okay. Well, so it was a pretty rough start from the Firebirds, I think it has to be said. I mean, that defensive unit just looked lost. They didn't know what was going on. And I think it was also the best start from the Magpies attacking line that we have seen in this season so far, pretty much. The first 8 goals or so were almost the exact same play. Brown, Sinclair, Nelson, goal.
Yeah.
Easy. And Sinclair was much stronger than I've seen her in previous rounds, and she was really getting some nice depth on second phase. I also thought that her ball placement into Nelson was brilliant, and sometimes that can be a bit of an area of concern. Also, Kelsey Brown had a really strong game. I mean, some of those feeds into Nelson were incredible. She just has this incredible vision. And she's actually topping the table for goal assists with 87 this season.
Wow.
Ahead of Laura Sherian with 77. She also had 27 centre pass receives in this game, which is just huge. And that's an absolute wealth of work from a wing attack.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think definitely Gabby Sinclair's strongest game, and Brown was just ridiculously good. Looking at the Firebirds now, I think it was a really rough start from Gretel Boetta. She was only 1 of 4 halfway through that first quarter, so she definitely had the yips early. But they really did come into the game towards the end of that first quarter and within the second quarter to actually take the lead. But particularly that defence started to really come into play. They turned over like 3 or 4 Pies centre passes in a row. And actually the start of that second quarter, it was 7-0 to Firebirds. So Magpies really struggled coming out the blocks in the second quarter. You could see Tara Hinchcliffe as well really starting to sniff some of those really deep passes into the pockets. Like we said, Sinclair got some great depth. But every time she goes for it, it just made me like clutch my chest because I thought she was going to take someone out. But I found that actually her decision-making's really grown, and she sort of backed out of a lot of those, chose not to go for them because she realised that she was late. And I think a couple of seasons ago, she wouldn't have done that. And she probably would have just bowled into someone and taken them out. So it's showing real growth from her.
Yeah, I actually think that defensive unit is really starting to get there. And I think they've been building. They were building in 2019. They were building in 2020. And this year, I think we've seen a few more flashes of what they can really achieve. And they've just got such good support from Gabby Simpson in wing defence, who does such a huge amount of work to really like bolster that unit. And yeah, I definitely agree about the decision-making ability has improved because you think those defenders are so young. I think they're 22 and 21. Yeah. And that is really, you know, a massive responsibility for them to take on to be holding up that defensive end. And up at the other end, the Firebirds were only shooting 78% at half-time compared to the Magpies, who were shooting at 94%. And that was a really good outing from Nelson. And I definitely think that she has come on in leaps and bounds this year in particular. She's been on the edge of development and building, and you keep thinking, yeah, she's got this potential. And I think we are really starting to actually see it. I do have to say I was getting a bit impatient with the bad hands because that was a real area of concern for her. But she has really solidified on that this season. And I think that she's really putting her hand up as a contender. Now that they've got Khalifa McCollin in, there's more competition in terms of that shooting end. So there's a lot for her to think about as well.
Yeah, like you say, I've been getting more and more frustrated and impatient with her because she has been, I know she's relatively new to netball, but she has been in the SSN setup for a few years now. So every season I'm like, this is going to be her breakout one. This is going to be her breakout one. And it actually does seem like this one is her strongest start so far, which is great. I also think Jackie Newton actually made a really good impact when she came on in the fourth quarter, and then when Ash Braz got moved to centre. I think that was really great. I was a bit sceptical when they first sort of took the court because the last few outings that we've seen Braz in centre initially, I've not been totally sold on having her in there. But I loved her in there towards the back end of the 2019 season. But yeah, when she went in there this week, she just had real confidence to let the ball go, and she brought so much speed and power into that attacking end. It was a really good move.
I think as well, they had to do something to try and nullify Kim Ravalian.
Yeah.
I mean, she is a beast, isn't she? Incredible comeback after having a baby. And she had 42 feeds in this game. Ooh. 42 feeds. I actually thought that was a mistake when I saw it on the stat sheet because it's just so ridiculous. And I'm quite interested in how the Firebirds seem to be switching between having Gemma Maimai and Lara Dunkley in at wing attack. And personally, I actually think I really like the creativity that Maimai brings. And I think she does a bit more of that work to support Ravalian because it can't just be a one-man band. You can't have your centre running all day, especially then when Ash Braz came in for the last quarter and was really nailing Ravalian. It's so tricky. You have to have a really fine balance between that attacking unit and a sharing of the power. You can't just have one person who's just dominating. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I actually prefer Mai over Dunkley. I just think she puts in such a high work rate. She's always cut and go, cut and go, cut and go. She just seems to be absolutely everywhere. The only thing that I have found with her in previous seasons is that she can get a bit rattled depending on who her opposition is, but I really love her, and I really hope that we can see her out on court, particularly for Indigenous round, which is coming up. I think if they do not put her on that court again, that is another huge missed opportunity, and she deserves it. She's playing really, really well. So
yeah, 100% agree. So in terms of the Suncorp Super Netball ladder, would you say that this is probably the biggest shock of the season so far?
Yeah, I think everyone had just written the pies off again.
Yeah.
You know, and I can understand why. Like, you look at their team, they have absolute superstars across the court, but they're never able to string it together for more than like 1 or 2 games a season for the last however many seasons. So I get why people did that. But I do wonder, is this going to be their season? Could it be? I mean, they are now in the top 4. I know it's early days, but they are in that top 4 position.
Yeah, just looking at the ladder now, I mean, yes, they are in top 4. However, the Fever, because of that point deduction, they've now skipped into 5th place. So Fever are now in 5th with 4 wins. So if Fever beat Giants, they'll overtake Magpies, because I don't think Magpies will beat the Swifts. I think that is too much of a reach. And then if you're looking at your top 4, you've got Giants, Lightning, Swifts, Fever. Magpies would have to do a lot to overtake one of those teams to stay in the top 4. But isn't it amazing how close it is? Even though we're only 4 rounds in, you know, it's really interesting. It's really up for grabs. And I think that it's unfortunate for some of the lower place teams like the Vixens and the Thunderbirds that the bonus point system hasn't come back in, because when you have that incentive for the really close games, I think it just brings such an extra level of excitement and intrigue about what's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And I know a lot of people I think the bonus point system is a bit like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. And personally, I'm a big fan because, like you say, I think it makes every single quarter really competitive because you've always got something to fight for. But I think that the main argument against it is that you will see much less of the bench players, because obviously you want to make sure that you're winning every quarter. So you're making sure you've got your strongest 7 out there, and you're not giving that opportunity to those who are more up and coming and trying to hone their court craft. So that is the downside to it, but there must be some middle ground somewhere.
Well, I think it's what they do in New Zealand, because in New Zealand you get one bonus point if you're within 5 at the end of the game. And so that means that teams are really fighting out. They might be down by 8, but they're not giving up because they really want to push for that bonus point in the last quarter. Whereas here in the UK, we don't have any bonus point system. And I think teams that have had a really good second half of the season, teams like London Pulse and particularly Sirens, who've been so close yet so far for lots of their games, they would have really benefited from having that extra incentive and extra reward on the points table, on the ladder, to say that they actually were really close that time. And it could have had an impact on the current standings, which, as we know, are super tight.
Yeah, without a doubt. And actually, thinking about the Wasp Rhino Sirens, that sort of hot mess in the middle, who's going to take it? No one knows. That would have. Maybe we should work that out. Actually, let's spend some time and work it out and see what would have been.
That's a nice bi-weekend project for us, isn't it? Well, if anyone does have any time on their hands and they want to work it out for us, we won't object. But yeah, I think it's something to consider, because it really just gives that extra incentive and it makes it closer. But then obviously what we have in the Suncorp and the ANZ is that the leagues are closer because there are fewer teams. Yeah. And in the ANZ in particular, each team plays each other 3 times. So you get to have that real, you know, you're either going to win against that team in the season or lose against that team, if that makes sense, that you're not going to draw. So I think that creates a really exciting competition and it makes it so much more even. I was actually hearing as well, this is a side note, that they've got an interesting thing with their salary cap, that you have players in different bands and you have to have a certain number of players in each band. So that's why they've got such even teams. Like, it's not like it is here where Team Bath have got like a million roses and then 7 Stars have got none. So they have different bands for what you can pay your players, which means that the spread of the Silver Ferns across all the 6 teams is much more even.
Love that. New Zealand just seem to have everything down.
Yeah, they've got it.
They've got life. Do you know what I mean? They're great.
Absolutely.
Coming up next, we chat to the lovely Laura Malcolm all about captaincy, responsibility, and the honour of being asked to co-captain the England Roses in the recent Test series against New Zealand. We are thrilled to be joined by one of the most versatile mid-quarters in the game, who also undoubtedly has the best game face in the entire business. It's Manchester Thunder and England Rose star, Laura Malcolm. Laura, welcome to the pod.
Hi, thanks for that lovely introduction.
Your game faces are just incredible. They give me life. I love it.
You know what? They're so bad, but I figure at the end of the day, firstly, if I make fun of them before anybody else does, saves me a little bit. Secondly, everybody's got bad faces when they play, but nobody ever puts them. So, you know, got to share that stuff, haven't you?
It's just for like real life, isn't it? You know, like you say, everyone has those faces, but just seeing it captured is incredible. It's hilarious. So, you're doing a service there, Laura.
That's why I do it.
Amazing. So we want to talk to you all about captaincy today. So talk us through the practicalities of captaincy. What are the duties of a captain for a national team, both on and off the court?
Well, obviously the on-court stuff is pretty, similar to what most people, I guess, would experience in terms of being a captain and a leader, leading by example on court, leading things like the warm-up, the quarter time talks, little bits like that. And I guess just making sure you can really sense what people need in the moment. So just making sure you're linking in and picking people up when they need it, or actually pushing the team forward whenever they're on a roll. Off court, I guess that's where it might differ at different levels. So for us in Super League, in the England environment, there's a lot more meetings I'll tell you that. So effectively, you're always trying to be the voice and the link between the players and the coaches. So, it usually involves regular kind of catch-ups, making sure the coaches know, how the team are feeling in training, physically how people are feeling, mentally how people are feeling, anything that the coaches need to be aware of that might adjust how they approach things, I guess. And then the same on the other side, so the coaches can deliver some messages through us, like, actually, I need you guys to be up in the intensity in training. I don't think we're getting what we want out of everybody, or just general kind of questions and seeing, would this style of session work with the rest of the group and things like that. And we go away and kind of get those messages across to the girls. So, yeah, I guess there's more, not admin, but there's just a lot more talking and a lot more meetings when it gets to that kind of elite level when it comes to captaincy. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I don't think people really have a sense of how active the captaincy is off court. So that's really fascinating. And obviously being named captain of a national side is, of course, a huge honour, and even more so when you look at those who've come before you, the likes of Olivia Murphy, Amanda Newton, Karen Atkinson, Sonia McCloma, and so many more. All of them are absolute legends of the game. And as co-captain with Serena Guthrie in 2020, you are now a part of that legendary group. So do you feel a sense of pressure or expectation in that, in wanting to live up to the example that those before you have set?
It was really it was really great for me to be able to take that role alongside Serena, being one of those great captains, because it was good for us to kind of lean on each other, especially during all the pandemic and things like that. It's a lot of extra things that are going on that we need to try and help and figure out ways to stay connected and all that stuff. So being able to have each other, I think, was really helpful for me, actually. In terms of living up to all those other amazing captains and amazing players, and it should never for anybody be about trying to live up to anyone else at the end of the day. I think I was put in that position for something that I bring as a player to the team and to the court, and as long as I'm doing what I do well and being myself in that respect, then it should be delivering what Jess wanted. So that was kind of how I approached it, and just essentially just tried to really enjoy the experience. And it was a really good experience, and something that I've really learned a lot about myself as both a captain and just as a player from, to be honest with you.
Can you talk us through what some of those learnings were?
Yeah, I think the communication and kind of the ability to support people and help people in the team without taking it as a personal problem as well. When you go away on tour, there's so many little random things that crop up for individuals that are some related to netball, some nothing at all related to netball. And to be honest, I'm a very, I'm going to say, emotional person. I've always been somebody, when I was younger, I'd watch the news and it would make me cry. Like, I can really relate to people in that sense, and I do really feel the emotions of people. So being in a position like that, where you probably have even more people reaching out to you for help, it's a learning for me to be able to support that person without making it something that really affected me, because essentially, like I said, you got a job to do, not only in terms of that side of things, but on court, leading by example is a massive part of being in that leadership role. So you need to be ready to go on court as well. So I think that was probably one of my biggest learnings. And then, it's just, like I said, it's great working with Serena, because she's all about a hyped up, passionate speech. And I think it's quite good. We took it in turns to do the speech, the little team talk before we went out, and it was good to kind of see how she would do things and I would do things a little bit different. And any ideas on that kind of stuff is always helpful, because if you're doing it quite a lot, you definitely have to be creative and think about, right, what is everybody not already fed up with? This is something new I can do, and something to jazz it up. So that was something that I really loved as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And obviously you've been in or around the England setup for a number of years, and you currently have 31 caps to your name. If we go back to the last test series that you co-captained in New Zealand, there were a few players who had a greater number of caps than you did, such as Cadine Corbin, who I think had 70 at the time, and of course Jade Clark, the legend that is, with an outrageous 176, who also used to be a Roses captain. So what's it like having to captain others who have more caps and international experience than you? Have you ever found that there's like a balance of power in play at times?
Oh, I feel like the culture is pretty amazing within our Roses at the minute, especially. And it's just really not like that. We're all there. Everybody's there for a reason at the end of the day. And that is one of the biggest things between any team that you play for. Everybody is part of that team. So everybody's there for a reason. Everybody's bringing their A game. And it is as simple as that. And if someone's got more caps than me, like I said before, it doesn't really matter. If I've been put in that position by the coaches, then that means what I do naturally is working for the team at that given time. So, that's what I just have to keep going with, and that's what I have to roll with. So it's not really intimidating for me, that kind of stuff. I'm part of a team. I feel comfortable in my team, and I'm just there doing my thing. So, yeah.
And I think in recent years, we've sort of seen a shift towards, or I think we've seen a shift anyway, towards leadership groups rather than solitary captains or a captain and vice captain setup. A prime example of this within the Super League is Saracens Mavericks, of course, who have Sasha Corbin, but then an additional leadership group of Cadine Corbin, Gabby Marshall and Jo Tripp. So we're just wondering, what are your thoughts on a leadership group versus more traditional setups?
I don't really mind it, to be honest with you. I always say, like I say to Jess, I've said it about a million times already on this podcast, that I'm just doing my thing. So, whether I'm in that leadership role or not, I'll still be helping the leadership. Like that's kind of just what some people are like naturally. I know it's quite, I think at one point we had about 6 or 7 in a leadership group with the Roses, and what that was really good for is the fact that because we've got so many different pathways into the Roses program, it gave different views. So Imo was a part of that leadership group. She was in the futures at the time, so she was a good link into that futures group. She had a good feel with how they were feeling about things, and it's good to kind of have different people in a leadership group that are operating within different levels of the whole group to get a good picture of how people are truly feeling about things. So I definitely think that has its uses, but every single team that I've been in has still had that, captain, vice captain that would head even that leadership group up. So yeah, I do think it's important to have that definite protocol for players, but without a doubt, having multiple people in that group that people can reach out to, I think just makes it even more accessible for people, and everybody can feel comfortable speaking to someone. Because although I feel like it's not that big of a deal, people who've got 170 caps like Jade, I know that's not the correct number, how many is it?
Oh, it was 176 at the time, I think.
Around 1,000 maybe, I don't know. Well, yeah, not everybody feels that comfortable speaking to people on those different levels, so it is good to have a mixture of people, I think.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's a way to recognise people who maybe are up and coming, who might be maybe taking on a full captaincy one day, but at the moment they're sort of in and around that group. But do you ever find that it's almost like, or, have you ever seen that it's maybe a bit of a too many cooks spoil the broth type situation?
You know what? No, because we're all in it together always, and we do so many random things, like especially at England, we'll do little treasure hunts and little themes quizzes and all that stuff. So the more people you've got to support, if you've got a group of leaders, it's a lot easier to pull those kind of things together because everybody does their own little thing. If you've got just 1 or 2 people working on it, then it can be quite a lot of work if it's just falling on their heads all the time. So I know with us, every week we had, last year, every week we had a player-led culture meeting, And every single week it was a different leader within the leadership group that had kind of planned that and delivered that. Now, if that was one person or two people doing that, that would be a massive task, whereas actually doing it once throughout the whole year wasn't that big of a deal. So, yeah, I think as long as you've got, you know, that captain, that vice captain who are happy to delegate kind of things, it's actually quite nice having a lot of leaders to work with. And actually, I think you'll find in most teams that everybody's kind of got a role, whether they're in the leadership or not. Everybody, we like delegating stuff to people because, you know, everyone's got to play their part in the team, haven't they?
Yeah, delegating is such an important skill as well, because it's another proverb. I absolutely love a proverb. Many hands make light work, isn't it? So then you're sharing it around between different people, and just everyone gets to bring their own unique skill to the table as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think you never know as well, you know, you might have your captain, vice captain set up, but you never know when that person might go down with an injury. You know, touch wood, that doesn't happen. But at that time, you might need someone else to step up and take the load then. So being able to share those leadership responsibilities out with the rest of the team builds them up for that occasion that they might need to step up to the plate one day. So yeah, love that. So if you take a look at some of probably the most notable netball captains in history across the world, you know, the likes of Laura Langman, the GOAT, Liz Ellis, all of those lot. What do you think it is that all of these women have in common that make them so successful and so suited to leadership?
I think first things first is just delivering on the performance every single time. That's like massive. And, you know, I always talk about when Sarah used to be our captain at Thunder. That is something that I just loved about her, because she wasn't really shouty or anything like that. And I don't think you get that from the likes of people like Laura Langman as well. They're not shouting and commanding the group all the time, actually just doing the leading through what they're actually doing. So I think that's something that's really, really important. And with that, that's not just on court, that is all the stuff around your training, your nutrition, everything off court. You've got to lead by example, I guess. And, you know, that there's no doubt that those kind of iconic captains are definitely doing that. I also think that something that's really important is just generally caring about people, to be honest. You know, you've got to be able to, everybody's got their own focuses with their own netball and their own netball journey, obviously, and you have to do that, especially when it comes to the elite level. You have to be, you know, really working hard towards your personal goals, and that in turn will help the team's goals. But also just having that little bit of extra time to just, you know, if somebody's going through something, to support them through that, and to just check in with them and things like that. And, you know, I'm mentioning Laura Langman because you just mentioned her there, but if you think about her as a person, you know, she's very, not holistic, I don't think that's the right word for it, but she seems very calm, very rounded as a person. And I think that's like a really big part of it as well, because obviously your demeanour has a big effect on others, and if you're that port of call that people are looking to lean on, then you've got to have the right tone, the right demeanour, the right response to those people in order to make them feel better. And, you know, if people are feeling good off court, they're going to put in that performance on court, and it makes it a whole lot easier to communicate with the team effectively when everybody's in a good place. So, yeah, I think putting in that performance all the time, being that role model, both on and off court, but also having that extra level of care and effort to just get to know and look after your teammates.
Yeah, definitely. And thinking about that on-court performance leading by example type thing, we obviously know it's the coach's responsibility to get the best out of their players in training and preparation for game day itself. However, they're not able to be out on court, obviously, while you're playing, feeling the play in amongst the highs and lows of it all. So then obviously it falls onto the captain to try and get the best out of their teammates whilst playing. So how do you do that on court? How do you rally the team together to get everyone to put out their best performance whilst, you know, potentially passing on messages from the coach and also trying to focus on your own game? How do you balance it all?
I think that what's really good is if you want everybody to be a leader, I guess, before you even get to the court situation. So, you know, talking about those moments beforehand is something that we do a lot in the Roses programme, always talking all the time. Loads of meetings about what it feels like when this kind of situation is happening, how do we respond to that. And I think preparing the team to be able to all look out for each other is something that is massively important when it comes to being able to drive that as players on court. Captaincy wise, it's about reminding people of those things, I think. So, if we've talked about we're going to do this kind of centre pass once we've had, we've scored a goal, after that goal, we want to consolidate and use this centre pass, then it's reminding those people, if we've not been doing that, remember what our centre pass is, remember how we're going to get 2 goals and things like that, and getting people to take their own responsibility. And I guess just making sure that at the end of the day, if you're feeling something on court, it's probably what other people are feeling as well. So you can kind of judge the tone that people need to be spoken to in, like, if people really need ramping up, or whether actually we just need to be calm in this moment. And it's about trying to be in tune with that stuff. So when it comes to your little hands in, you're giving people the right feel and the right vibe before they go onto court to go again.
Yeah, that's so interesting. They're talking about how different people respond and, how you're really in amongst it. And obviously we know as a captain that you're the leader on and off the court. And so relationships, that must be a huge part of your ability to lead. So how much time off court or in training is spent on getting to know the individual players and learning what exactly makes them tick?
Well, last year, we did a session every single week that would kind of help with that stuff, help build relationships, and making sure that, if we can see certain people need to build relationships on court or off court, that we're trying to encourage that effectively by putting them in the same group or little things like that. So that is kind of like a formal weekly effort, I guess, when we was in Rose's camp last year, and I imagine it'll be something that we continue. I think that it's just something that you should be doing all the time, to be honest with you. It's quite easy and natural, and it's something that, you subconsciously, you gravitate towards the people that, you do get on the most with, that you're good friends with, or even you've had relationships outside of netball with and whatever. But it's really, really important to just ask other people how the day's been, what they've been up to. And obviously that's part of getting to know people and making sure, oh, actually, she's not on a good day today. She's not feeling good. Now I can relate why she's been playing like that, or why I said a little thing to her earlier and she's reacted really badly to it. And that's just that extra little bit of getting to know people. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just an effort that you should be making. Everybody should be making all the time. And it sounds easier. It's easier said than done, actually, because obviously when you're not feeling up to it, it's you gravitate towards the people that you feel more comfortable around. But we should be doing that all the time and have that kind of formal check-in and formal effort to get to know each other and work with each other even more weekly. Well, that's what we were doing last year anyway.
No, I love that. I love that people-centered approach, and actually you live out that value in every conversation that you have. That's just a part of sort of who you are as a person, as a leader. I think that's great. As you may know, I don't know if you're a listener to the pod or not, but we had Lisa Alexander on a couple of weeks ago, and she talked us through the democratic setup that she instilled during her time as Diamond's head coach, which put the power into the players' hands. And now Stacey Marinkovic is in place. It seems like the captains are now appointed rather than elected. So can you talk us through what the process is for being selected as captain within the Roses setup?
It's more of an appointed situation, so Jess is picking. I don't know how much they talk about it as coaches. I'm sure they do talk about it. And I don't know if once she knows who a captain is, whether she's checking in with people. Because obviously when I was captain, it was me and Serena together. So there's no discussion there, I guess. She did check in with me saying, would I be okay to do it? I was like, Yes, I'll be fine. Thank you very much. But yeah, no, she Jess is the one who's choosing, and yeah, and then obviously she just lets us know, asks us how we feel about it, what she's kind of wanting from us, and yeah, we can either accept or say no, thank you, not this time. But I don't think that's happened as of yet.
Do you remember that conversation well? Can you talk us through like the emotions of what you were feeling at that time?
Yeah, when she asked me to be vice captain for the first time, so Nat was captain, I was vice captain, I definitely just instantly cried on the spot. That was a very, very proud moment. And, you know, like, for me, this whole journey so far has just been really a whirlwind, to be honest with you. It's, you know, something that I'm really proud of since I've come back into the Roses programme. And yeah, it was a lot of hard work, and then for that to be asked of me was like, wow. I feel like I'm just trying to compete for my spot here, and for you to think that I'm a leader in this group is just like blows my mind. So that was amazing. Obviously from that point I've been involved in the leadership group quite a lot, so now I think I have quite a good relationship with all the girls that have been involved in leadership, and also with the coaches. And yeah, you know, like I said, I'm just doing myself at the end of the day, and it doesn't feel necessarily overwhelming in terms of I'm scared to do it. It's just very exciting and a real honour for the coaches to recognise me in that way. And yeah, and I just think, right, got to do the best I can do now for the girls and enjoy it whilst I'm doing it.
Amazing. Oh, well, I think that's the perfect note for us to end on. And you certainly are a brilliant leader on court, not only in your versatility and how much skill you bring to the game, but also you as a person as well. So hopefully it won't be too long till we can actually see the Roses back on court again.
I know. Well, it won't be too long till people can actually see people with their eyes face to face.
We can't wait. Yeah, so we've booked our tickets. We'll be there.
Excellent. I'll see you there. I won't be there, though. I'll just see you.
Social distance, of course. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the pod, Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure, and good luck for your double header this weekend.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 16 of Quarter Time. We can't wait to bring you even more netball chat and another awesome guest next week.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media at Quarter Time Pod for the latest netball updates. Get involved in the conversation online by letting us know what you think of the big doubleheader coming up this weekend, and let us know which players have stood out for you.
Enjoy the next round of matches and see you next week. Bye.
Bye.